All right, we'll get things underway. So thank you everyone for joining us. My name is Michael McAlena. I'm the Managing Director for SVG Ventures Thrive here in Australia. Really excited to be kicking this off with our APAC Accelerator and doing a bit of an info session for those who are joining the call. I'm joined today by my colleague, Danny O'Brien, who's joining us from Israel today. And Danny is the Managing Director for European and our European operations. And also the global lead for programs as well. So Danny, I don't know if you want to maybe just do a quick intro to yourself, but we'll throw to you a little bit later in the presentation to do an intro of the Accelerator program. And then I'll give a bit of a rundown in terms of Thrive and what we're doing in Australia.
Sure. Thank you, Michael. And good afternoon, good evening, everyone. It's morning here for me in Israel. I'm usually based in Dublin, Ireland, but in Israel today for Agri-Food Tech Week. And really looking forward to presenting our program here today. We've got a number of accelerator programs around the world, including now in Australia. So really looking forward to talking to you about this today and answering any questions you have. Over to you, Michael.
Fantastic. Thanks, Danny. What I'll do is I've just got a few slides we're going to run through today and give you a bit of background. So give me 1 second, I'll get that up and running. Excellent, no worries at all. So, cool, bit of today's agenda. Obviously, SVG Thrive will be, for some of you who have seen our recent launch, and for those in my personal network who have seen that I've come on board as the Managing Director over the last few weeks. The brand in Australia has been, with Evoke Ag, an event that we ran with them back in 2020. And Thrive has done some work with CSIRO and a few partners over the past few years. But now we're basically setting up an operation in Australia, and I'm really fortunate to be leading that for SVG Thrive. So a bit of today's agenda is a bit more about SVG and who we are. And then Danny will go through the APAC Accelerator and run through the program, what we're planning there. Key dates in terms of submissions, how we're going to go through the process of assessing companies, and then the actual program and what the key dates will be around that, so you're aware. In terms of the launch, so you may have seen back in June of this year an announcement with the Victorian government that SVG Thrive is setting up a HQ for Asia Pacific that will be based out of Victoria. And that's really with a partnership with the Victorian government, with Agriculture Victoria and Invest Victoria. Really looking forward to working with them, helping to really grow the ecosystem from Victoria. But our focus will definitely be Australia and the broader Asia Pacific. So looking to do some activities in New Zealand and into Singapore as well. So if you're a company that's joining us from New Zealand or Singapore, you definitely want to see some applications coming through there. But looking forward to being part of the Australian ecosystem and really connecting the Australian agri-tech ecosystem into the global footprint that SVG provides. In terms of SVG as an organisation, according to Crunchbase, one of the most active ag-tech investors globally, we work with a number of corporate clients, which I'll run through in a moment, run our accelerator program, and obviously have our investments as well. We've been around since 2012 and based in Silicon Valley, where the team is. We also have operations in Canada, and then where Danny is over in Ireland, in the UK, we have some operations in Europe as well. About the platform, and Danny can build on this as well. Really, the platform has three core components. So we believe that advancing agri-food tech requires companies to work with industry. So we've really built this platform, which has got three pillars to it. The first is corporate. So we have our corporate partners such as Bayer, Kubota, Driscoll's, and those partners are a big part of our ecosystem. And what we're really looking to do is find ways of connecting startups, their technologies, their research to these corporates, because often these corporates are looking for innovation. They're looking for ways to connect with early stage companies, support them. And we see that as a really vital channel to market for a lot of these early stage companies. And that's a big part of the accelerator program, is really connecting early stage companies from Australia into that network with our corporate partners. The other side of what we do is obviously from the investment perspective, and Danny can also build on this as well. So we have our investment part of the business where companies that do go through the program, we do have a look at that from an investment perspective, and we'll, in the past, we have placed investments into companies that go through the accelerator. The accelerator is really the mechanism in which we're having a look from an Australian perspective at the moment at making investments. So companies coming through the accelerator, the investment lens is definitely something that we're having a look at. And for those companies that are looking to thrive in terms of investment, definitely have a look at being part of the accelerator program, because that's how we're basically placing most of our investments over the near term. Some of our global partners, as I said, we work with some of the largest agri-food, agri-business brands globally, and this is a huge part of the accelerator program. So, working with the likes of Trimble, Kubota, Bayer, they will be part of our assessment in terms of actually picking the companies that go through the accelerator program, but we also have mentorship through these companies as well. So if you're a company that really sees these organizations as a channel to market or as a partner, or you feel that they can really add value and help your global expansion and your near-term growth, this is where we can really provide a lot of value to companies that are coming through the accelerator. We'll obviously have those companies, the representatives become mentors. And then as we get towards things like demo day, they'll do a lot of the judging and help us to really add a different lens and a different perspective to companies that are coming through. So with that, I'm going to hand over to Danny, and Danny, feel free if I've missed anything to build on some of those points, and I'll just run the slides for you as you go through, so just let me know.
Sounds good, Michael. I think you did a great job covering us and what we do and what we're planning for Australia and the APAC region. So if you go on to the next slide, I can kick off on the accelerator side of things. And just to give you guys a bit of context, we've been running accelerators for, as Michael said, nearly 10 years now. And we've had a global program based in Silicon Valley, and we've taken founders from around the world to this program over the years, including a number of Australian companies who've been very successful on the program. And, really that program has gained a lot of credibility and notoriety. You can see it was voted #1 best agri-food accelerator in the world by AgFunder. We typically have a global audience looking at our programs here and the companies. And that's why a lot of the corporates work with us. And because we find these companies who are doing the best in their industries, in their niche, and can really solve some of the problems that they're facing. And the same goes for farmers and other stakeholders in our Thrive ecosystem. Really, they wrap around the companies throughout the program to help you succeed, scale, and achieve your next milestones. So to Canada last year, and we did our first accelerator program up there. And now this year coming 2023, we'll have our first APAC accelerator, which we're really excited about. And while we're tailoring the program towards the needs of Australian companies and APAC companies, there's also a global element to this as well, of helping companies think global, leveraging our global network, and giving you that global access to potential customers, because the problems facing Australian agriculture are typically, some of the problems that are facing California or US agriculture as well. So it's a 12-week program. We'll go through dates in a few minutes. It's focused on connecting with our corporate network, connecting with mentors from industry. We have a demo day. In terms of the investment from Thrive, we'll have a pot of $1 million Australian dollars, which will be invested into the companies throughout the program at the end of the program. So we'll be looking at each company very closely coming through the program for potential investments there. Each week of the 12 is broken up into a specific theme. So you can see some of the themes here. I won't go through them all, but the typical key topics that every founder needs to get right if they really want to scale their business and raise that next round of investment. So, focusing on the product, sales, marketing, go-to-market strategy, and pitch training, so they can raise that next round as well. And really with the content, with our mentors that we have delivering this content, we're looking for founders who have some sort of product market fit and are really looking to scale. So we're not teaching you how to write a business plan or how to get things started. It's really about helping you go to the next level. Thinking global is a big part of that. In terms of beyond the weeks, we have also the mentorship, which runs throughout the program. We have an online e-learning platform as well, which is available on demand, and many other elements besides the program as well. If you go to the next slide, please, Michael. So in terms of who we're looking for, we're looking for seed to Series A companies within the agri-food tech industry. Again, we only focus on agri-food, which allows us to create this really focused network. So we don't step outside this industry. And what I would add here around here is we're looking for companies that have a climate positive or sustainability lens as well. That will really help set your application apart. Because some of the problems we're seeing around the world in climate are really affecting farmers' ability to grow food and provide food security for the population. So farmers are facing these issues, corporates are facing these issues, and we're looking to innovation to solve some of these major issues as well. So as you can see here, pre-minimum, we're looking for at least pre-minimum viable product, a prototype in beta or product in market with paying customers is ideal. So we can help you, grow from there. In terms of the key dates, so applications are open now. We launched them about a month ago. They'll close on November 18th. We will then have something that's called a pitch day. We'll analyze all the applications. We'll then pick out the top 20 or so companies, and we'll put them in front of our judges who will be from industry, some of the corporate partners, as Michael mentioned, who will help us evaluate each of these companies via a 5-minute pitch and 7 minutes Q&A. So you'll have some great one-on-one time with these judges. We will then select about 10 to 15 companies for interviews, which will take place in January 2023. And then we'll do the cohort selection from there. We're looking for 10 companies from all across Australia, New Zealand, and the general APAC region as well. Seed Camp is where we'll kick off our program. We will have a 1-week trip to Silicon Valley, where we will have a full array of activities throughout the week, where you will have access to corporate partners, mentors. We'll do some mentoring session there. We'll have attended a number of conferences, organize some dinners with investors, with partners who can support you as well. So it's really an in-depth, busy week, but really a great way to kick things off, meet the rest of the cohort as well, meet our team in person. I think that's important, and really set you up for success throughout the program. Then the webinars ensue over the course of the program, and then we'll have a demo day as well in Australia in May 2023, which is going to be in Melbourne. So with that, applications are open. We have a QR code here, and we invite any questions. We can check if there's any questions now. Before I go, I really really everyone joining in today. And for those of you who are making the effort to join in, a couple of things that we look for when we're looking for successful companies at the early stages, really around the team, the market size, the product or the technology that you're building, any traction you have to date. And I said the climate sustainability side as well. There are some of the key things we're looking for when we're evaluating applications. So make sure you put some effort into that in your application, and I think that'll help you stand out. Another thing is to be concise. Sometimes when we ask about the product, we get some of these PhD copy and paste into the application box. It just takes us so long to review all these things. So the more concise you can be, the better you can tell your story, the more confident we'll be in you as a company. So there are just some tips from us. And I said the QR code will take you to our APAC Accelerator page here. And yeah, we can tackle any questions if there are any.
Fantastic. Thanks, Danny. As Danny mentioned, if you've got any questions, just pop them in the Q&A and we'll start to work through that. I might just build on a couple of points that Danny has made. I've been working in the agri-tech ecosystem in Australia for the past 4 years, and have met a few companies that are on the call today and have mentored through many of the programs and sort of seen some of the challenges that come across companies as they go through accelerators and as they start to scale up. I suppose where we're really positioning this from an Australian context is for those companies that are, a couple of years old, they've got, a few customers, they've got some revenue, they've got some traction, they are really starting to get solid product market fit. And with COVID, what I've seen is a lot of companies that have kind of been stuck in Australia and really struggling to get into that next gear, struggling to get into those larger organizations, starting to look at what is that next market? Is it Europe? Is it Asia? Is it the US? And that is really where we're sort of targeting this particular program. So, those companies that, the team is starting to form, you've got a solid product set, you're really starting to understand where the potential is. This is where we can add value. So we can add value by introducing you to those corporate partners. And we can also, by bringing you to Silicon Valley, introducing you to our other cohorts. So we'll have a global cohort and a Canadian cohort. Those programs will be running parallel to the APAC Accelerator. And we really want to bring those groups together, because what we see is a real opportunity where those organizations can collaborate, potentially go to market together, could be complementary research or complementary technologies. And that's where we can have this sort of multiplying effect and really be efficient there. So that's hopefully added a little bit more context in terms of where we see this program fitting in the broader landscape of the accelerator programs in Australia. We want to be very complementary to the accelerator programs in Australia. So we know in Victoria, Farmers to Founders, Rocket Seed, SPRADX, doing an amazing job with their pre-seed programs. And we really want to be that next step. So companies that come out of those programs really having a good understanding of where they can add value, where they can build a business. As Danny mentioned, this is really about scaling that. So if you have gone through one of those programs, we're really trying to position what we offer through the program as that sort of next step for you. And getting you to Silicon Valley, I think is going to be an amazing thing. That's really being supported by Victorian government and being able to actually make that happen, but also the investment side as well. There has been a question that's come through from James. So do you have to go through the accelerator program to go through the investment process, particularly if you have customers and have been operating for a couple of years? Danny, I might just throw this to you in terms of how we look at investment at SVG in terms of companies coming either through the accelerator program or coming to us directly.
Sure. Thanks, Michael. And yes is the short answer, James. It sounds like you'd be an ideal fit in terms of in market for a couple of years, have a number of customers, and I assume you're looking to scale if you're looking for investment. So that's really what this program is designed for. And in terms of looking at the companies, we like the companies to come through our program, understand, how we work with the founders, get to know the founders, things like that, understand where we can add value, and then make more informed decisions around the investment process. So yes is the short answer. Hopefully that makes sense.
Excellent. And just to build on that, Murad has asked a question, so a couple of questions. So maybe I'll just build on that. In terms of how is the valuation handled if we do make an investment? Is that based on the last raise? So how do we look at valuations for companies that we're looking to invest in?
Yeah, so typically we look at if a founder has raised money in the last 6 months or so from a sophisticated investor, we will look at matching those terms. Or if you're about to close a round, and this is a bit nuanced here, if we have confidence that this round is about to close at X valuation, we would match those terms on the deal. If one of those scenarios does not occur or take place, we would go through an evaluation exercise in terms of figuring out what you think it should be valued at versus what we think, and kind of ending up usually somewhere in the middle. So yeah, that's typically how it works.
Excellent. And Murad's got all the good questions here. So with our corporate partners, in terms of brokering that relationship, how does the program help to structure those relationships and those engagements with our corporate partners?
Yeah, so there's a couple of ways. Firstly, there's a few fixed points or times of year, times throughout the program where there's engagement points. So things like the week in Silicon Valley, as we mentioned at CCamp, that's a key opportunity to connect with our corporates who all come in for that week. Our demo day is another one. Some of our corporate partners do sessions throughout the program as well, so you can connect one-on-one with them. But then the other option is, we give you a list of our corporate partners, and you tell us, which ones you'd like to connect with, why you'd like to connect with them, and what they would benefit from connecting with you. So really trying to build that case. And we encourage all our companies who come through the program to be really specific about that, because your use case or your reason for connecting with one corporate could be very different to another corporate. So let's not just copy and paste here. Let's really be specific and think about what you would do if you were to work with this company, and we'll make our best efforts then to make that introduction. We can't guarantee everything because these corporates, as you can imagine, get inundated with companies reaching out all the time. But when it comes from Thrive, it goes a lot further. So what we'll do is either make that introduction or get you feedback on why it's not a fit at this time.
Excellent. There was another question come through around, is the accelerator for Australian startups only? The accelerator, this particular one, the APAC accelerator, is for really companies in the Asia Pacific, so Australia, New Zealand, Singapore. We do have a couple of programs that are running parallel. So we have a global program, which is for companies that are outside of the Asia Pacific region. And we also have a Canadian accelerator as well. So really, wherever you are around the world, there's basically an accelerator that we're running at the same time to be able to support startups globally. Danny, I don't know if there's anything on top of that you wanted to add at all.
Yeah, no, I think you covered it, Michael. We've had, great Australian companies come through our global program in the past, which is one of the reasons we're setting up a dedicated program for not just Australia, but the APAC region to find more companies, partner with them and invest in them as well. And we think there's a big opportunity there. So this is a great opportunity to be part of our first cohort. And just to kind of a bit of context as well, the APAC accelerator will overlap in terms of timings with our other programs. So there's an opportunity to connect with those other cohort companies as well, which I actually think is a really important element of being on a program, is connecting with that, those peers. For example, last year, supply chain was a real issue, and a lot of the hardware companies were talking to each other and trading ideas around how to get chips or motors or whatever they needed out of China, which was difficult. So I think there's a lot of learning there, learning from each other and opening up new markets. I mean, if you have cohort companies in Canada or the US or Europe, you can understand what's happening over there in those markets. Is that an opportunity for me to engage or expand over there as well? So I think that's a great opportunity to be alongside them.
Excellent. And just throwing up our screen around the global partners that we have, just so people get a bit of an understanding of who those companies are. This is an area where I know from the work that I've done, many startups are really trying to engage with farmers, but also corporates as well. What we found is that really the corporates are a really aligned path to market. So a lot of ag tech startups really struggle to get on farm, struggle to maybe connect with the farming community. A lot of these larger corporates do have the channels to their supply chains, to their grower networks as well. So this can be a really effective and efficient way to connect with farm and to actually get there. We're also looking to expand this over the coming months in the lead up to the accelerator running in Australia. So we've got some Australian partners. We are working with the likes of Dairy Australia at the moment, and also speaking with AgriFutures. We've obviously got MLA, Agriculture Victoria. So although some of these companies are more global focused, we will, by the time we get the accelerator up and running, have some Australian centric partners on board. So if you need access to the Victorian demo farms or the South Australian demo farms, all of that will be available, and we can definitely make those connections as well. So just something to sort of add there. Just going through if there's any questions.
Looks like there's one on mentors.
Yeah, excellent. Danny.
Yeah, I can speak to that, Scott. So really, it's quite a diverse network of mentors we have. We've a bench of about 200 who would engage pretty regularly on a program. So we have obviously the 3 accelerator programs. We also have a pre-accelerator program as well. And our mentors get involved out of their own time. They want to help the next generation of founders. And really, we have a lot of industry executives who have come from industry, who've been in the ag industry for many years. We also have previous founders or serial founders. Maybe they've come through our programs in the early days, kind of 8-9 years ago. We have a few of those who have built and scaled and in some cases sold companies who come back and mentor. And then we've got some specific I'd say subject matter experts. An example would be Nathan Gold, who is an expert pitch coach, and he has coached TED Talks or TED speakers to do TED Talks, etc. He's coached, leading but also a lot of startups, and he really enjoys working with us. So, we folks like that we would bring in to focus specifically on one area, and likewise in other areas as well. So hopefully that gives you a good idea. What we do in terms of the mentor matchmaking is really understand what the areas that you want to improve on, where the gaps might be. And every startup has gaps. I mean, not everything is rosy or pretty, and that's where we want to help. So it's a case of you guys telling us, but also us working closely with you in a coaching role of understanding who we think could be a good fit for you, and then making that introduction and working with them throughout the program.
Fantastic. Yeah. And just again, to sort of reflect what I said previously, we're definitely looking to get some Australian mentors on board as well, and really expanding that mentor network. So mentorship will be a big part of this, and it's always an incredibly important part of getting different perspectives as you go through these different programs. So expect some really high quality mentors from the network that we're growing here in Australia and broader Asia Pacific. There is one question, and we'll wrap up in a few minutes. So if you've got any other questions, just jot them in the Q&A around the time expectation per week for someone in the program over the 12 weeks.
Yeah, sure. I can take that, Michael. So in essence, I don't want to sound like a teacher here. It's what you put into it, you get out of it. But it's a little bit like that in terms of the webinars and the mentorship sessions that we have. Typically, they're around 2 to 3 hours per week of a commitment, which isn't huge. We know founders are busy people. They're working on their products and scaling, and especially at the stage that we're looking at. So it's not a full-time program. It's definitely a part-time program. We keep the sessions to the same time every week, so it's consistent. So we'll send you a calendar hole at the start of the program for every week. And it's a case of just planning around that, really. There is obviously some exercises, which I mean are kind of extracurricular around, if we do a session on business model design or market sizing, for example, you going away and kind of doing some work around that, and then working with a mentor to refine that thesis, or preparing your deck based off feedback that we've given you. So there's stuff like that that's more, it's harder to quantify, I guess. It's more depending on the company, but the kind of the core elements is kind of 2 to 3 hours a week. Really it's working around your schedule.
Excellent. So we'll wrap up in a couple of minutes. One thing I might just add as well, just off of some recent conversations, is around the expansion from Australia or APAC into the US as well. So we're working very closely with Invest Victoria, with Austrade, and the landing pads and so forth there. So if in 2023, if expansion from Australia or APAC into the US is on your radar, this will be a really well-aligned program. When we do have Seed Camp, we will be getting the Austrade team involved in that, and having a look at the landing pad there and seeing the capability that the Austrade team can provide. I know personally from my previous companies, we did go to the US, and Austrade are incredibly valuable in that process. There's a lot to learn in terms of structuring the company correctly to be able to really flip up into the US, building a team in the US and so forth. So if your company is looking to sort of expand globally, we do have a lot of connections into those trade organizations that can be really an incredible asset through this process as well. So that's definitely something to keep in mind. Unless there's any other questions, we might wrap up there. So give it sort of 30 seconds. Thanks, Danny, for joining us. I know it's early and you've got a long flight ahead of you. Both of us are heading to our Global Impact Summit over in California next week. So I'll be jumping on a plane on Monday morning and heading over to California. And Danny's about to go from Israel to California. So busy week for both of us coming up.
Absolutely. It's always busy here, but always fun stuff as well. So looking forward to seeing you in person, Michael. And it doesn't look like there's anything else coming through, but thank you to everyone from my end for taking part today, and hope to see some great applications coming in. And if you have any questions, shoot us a mail as well. I'm sure we can answer them afterwards. But thank you for joining today, and thank you, Michael.
Excellent. Thanks, Danny. Thanks everyone for joining us. If you have any questions, the link, go to our website, the APAC Accelerator applications can be made there. Any questions, feel free to reach out to myself and I'll be more than happy to point you in the right direction. And really looking forward to seeing some amazing companies come through. And again, applications close on November the 18th. So if you can pop your application in before then, we look forward to speaking to you soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you.